In this video, we walk through how to run synthesis. Synthesis is the first step in converting your system Verilog source files into a bit stream that you can use to configure the FPGA board. Synthesis takes your system Verilog modules and turns them into a circuit netlist. So you can run synthesis once you have added your files here and you have the correct file set as the top level, and you make sure that you don't have any syntax errors in your files, which will show up here in the sources window. So we run synthesis by going to the flow navigator over on the left and hitting the run synthesis button. This will start the synthesis process, which can take a few minutes, so you'll need to be patient, especially as you get later in the labs and your design gets larger. So you can see that synthesis is running by looking here in the project summary in the synthesis section, that it's running synthesis design. You can also see it up in the right hand side where there's a cancel button, and finally down in the bottom there's a design runs where you can see that synthesis is currently running as well. So we're just going to give this a minute here to finish. Alright, and when it's finished, this box will pop up, basically asking whether you want to continue on to the next step or look at the synthesized design. But for now, we're just going to hit cancel. And so what you want to look at here, especially you want to look at the status that it completed, and in the messages here, you can see whether there's warnings or errors. If there's any errors, you won't be able to continue on past synthesis to the next step. If the messages shows that there was an error or warnings, you definitely want to stop what you're doing and check what those are. Errors will prevent you from continuing, but warnings, even though you may be able to continue, you still want to stop, as it may still prevent your design from working correctly. You can check what these warnings are by going to the Messages tab down here or clicking the link that will take you there right away. And the Messages tab shows all messages from Vivado. We're going to collapse these other ones and just look at the synthesis category here. In this case, it's a warning about some missing constraints, and in this case we can ignore this warning. But you always want to stop and look and check what these warnings are to see if there are problems with your design that you may need to change before continuing. So also, once we're done synthesis, we can look at the reports by going to the Reports tab. And you'll see under Synthesis, you'll see the synthesis report as well as the utilization report. If we open up the synthesis report by double-clicking, it'll show us a full log of all of the output messages as synthesis was run. And one thing we can do is we can scroll down to see how many of the different types of resources there are in our final circuit that's created. And so you'll see here cell usage, that we have lot 3s, 4 of them, and then we have input buffers, 3 input buffers, and 4 output buffers, which we expect for this design. And the last thing we can do is we can look at our actual synthesized circuit. So if we go here and expand the Open Synthesized Design and click on the schematic button here, it'll open up a schematic. And this may look a bit different than the schematic you looked at earlier, but this is actually the circuit netlist as it will be implemented on the FPGA. And so you'll see here that we have our 3 inputs on the left, our 4 outputs on the right, and the logic functions are implemented by 4 LUT3s here in the center. That's it for the synthesis step.